Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You can see the score lines, or rather the damage lines, coming in from our last game. But no, this is not StarCraft. We are here for a third game in League of Legends. North America has done it. Immortals have done it. They've at least taken it to the third game in the series.
And this is exactly what I wanted to see. Cody-san coming out on the Ezreal, a much safer champion, but he's able to output an adequate amount of damage. You can see right there on your screen, 21,000, absolutely destroying Soul.
I just really like Hecarim in this game here, and I think the pick from Dardak actually has been very smart. I even like the Gragas he picked earlier. I think it makes a lot of sense when like Rek'Sai and Lee Sin have been taken away. And the thing I like the most about the Hecarim specifically in this game is they had a very reliable way to engage team fights. So Immortals didn't have to like play that insane like macro game or pulling mini waves or anything. They were like, all right, once we push the waves a little bit, we go together in the mid lane, and then there's a Twitch and there's an Orianna. Dardak, just go straight away,
right.
and they engage so many good fights.
I'm going to call you out a little bit because during the last segment you were like, this comp is going to be so hard to execute.
It is hard to play.
I mean, so what happened? Did Immortals just out-execute? Were they able to do it, or was it easier than you initially expected?
Well, Pobuilder played better than I expected on the Rise, and actually had really good flanks in these team fights. And Ole and Cody-san down the bot lane didn't actually lose like we saw in the last game between them. So they were able to execute better than I maybe had expected, because it actually was a hard comp to execute.
Yeah, I mean, we really weren't sure how it was going to be only coming in on the Thresh. Like I said, it's kind of like a legacy pick for him back in the LMS. But the Bard from game one was just not good at all. So that was a really big cause for concern when going into the Thresh, but he played it perfectly.
I definitely think like a lot of these members stepped up individually, and that's super good to see, because Kongdoo Monster's early game, and we have to be very brutal here in the first two games, in both games we have seen, it's been abysmal. Like, I'm watching laners getting ganked by some of the most standard ganks, and they're like, should I put a ward down? Nah. Should I flash? Nah. I'm like, why are you dying to this? Why are you doing this? Like, they're giving away some very easy kills to Immortals, and because they had the Hecarim engaged alone, and because Pobuilder was actually really good at flanking, Immortals this time around were able to win these team fights and close out the game.
Is this just poor decision-making coming in the early game from Kongdoo Monster? Did we see some, like, we were so focused, of course, on the Immortals draft in the last draft phase, because it was them who needed to find a win, Immortals who needed to find the win. We didn't really look so much at Kongdoo Monster's composition, and I'm wondering what they could have changed in pick bans to really make that game easier for themselves, because the Orianna, the Twitch, yes, they're these late-game powerhouses, but they don't feel very strong in the early game.
Not in the early game, I definitely agree on that one, but I don't think the draft was bad by Kongdoo Monster specifically. I think it's a very generic draft, it's a very standard draft. Honestly, like, you have Rek'Sai, you have Poppy, you have Orianna. We see these picks all the time in this tournament. I think the problem is more when you play like picks like, Twitch and Orianna, and if you're then getting ganked and you're actually dying to these very simple normal ganks, you put yourself in a big deficit, and if the other team is able to pull the trigger in fights like Dardak was here from Immortals, then suddenly you can actually fall too far behind and start losing these games here and losing these fights. But I think Kongdoo is like, we can survive the early game, or even if we fall slightly behind, we can beat them mid to late game. They probably didn't expect Immortals to actually execute that comp so well.
Of course, the Thresh ban immediately comes out onto Ole. We were wondering why they banned it away. Ole, as you mentioned, Achilles, having a really solid game on it overall. Still don't know if it remains ban-worthy, but Kongdoo appear to be at least in disagreement. This has been the very standard bans for them thus far throughout the tournament. Rengar and Thresh taken off the board as Immortals round out their bans with the Cassio and the LeBlanc.
Interesting they don't want to first pick LeBlanc. Considered the best mid lane champion by basically every single team, and you're banning it on blue side here. It would most likely have been the last ban from Kongdoo Monster, unless Immortals were afraid that Kongdoo would leave both Syndra and LeBlanc open, and Pobuilder maybe didn't feel comfortable playing whatever side of that matchup. I'm actually a little bit surprised they banned on the blue side.
I think maybe that they went for this so that Kongdoo has to choose between the Ryze and the Syndra, but now actually both of them are available. So if they wanted to first pick Ryze, Pobuilder played that extremely well. They could do so, but looks like they're actually going to go for the Syndra here as the Ashe is banned away from Cody-san, which I think is a little bit questionable for Kongdoo Monster because Cody did not look comfortable on that champion whatsoever.
Maybe just looking for the throwaway ban, not wanting to ban the Ryze or the Syndra.
Basically, yeah.
Hoping to leave up the jungle pool. Of course, the Rek'Sai is still available. While the Hecarim was a terror in the last game, it's kind of hard to imagine Kongdoo making it a priority here.
And actually, looking back now at the draft, banning LeBlanc, I guess for Immortals, they were like saying we have all three OP mids now, Ryze, Syndra, LeBlanc available. If we don't ban any of them, and Kongdoo Monster doesn't ban any of them either, we are going to be forced to pick LeBlanc. We're going to give them Syndra, and that can be very dangerous. So by them banning LeBlanc and Kongdoo only having one ban left, they're kind of like, if you ban any of them, we're going to pick one, you're going to get none, or you leave both open, and we can take Syndra for sure.
And I really like this first pick phase coming in from Kongdoo Monsters. Not only do they get the Rise, as you mentioned, the trade coming out, they take the Ezreal away from Cody's son. How big of an impact do you think that's going to have?
I'm not sure what he's going to go to now at this point because the Ashe is gone, the Ezreal's gone.
Maybe
so
Jhin.
where do we want to see him go? Is it going to be the Jhin? I mean, we saw him hover that at the, in the last draft. Maybe you could go for that. Like I said, it does still have that long-range utility with the curtain call, slowing people down, trying to get picks. But again, it's just one of these champions that is, you have to be so careful with your positioning. If you are off by an inch, you will get stopped.
Yeah, I like Jhin with Syndra specifically, like very long range from both champions, a lot of pick potential, like that long range stun from Syndra, long range snare from Jhin. It's a really good combo when you are actually sieging around turrets. So I think that's a very good setup. I would love to see Hecarim again because it was so good for engages, but Rek'Sai is still available and not being picked so far and is generally considered the best of, these junglers that are still on the table. So I think this rotation makes a lot of sense from Immortals. And them getting the Syndra, yes, they lost the Rise, but a lot of teams are so comfortable playing Syndra because she's been strong for such a long time. And again, that's why they banned LeBlanc to just say, give us Syndra or Rise, we'll get one of them, and if you leave both open, we will for sure get Syndra.
So who do you think has the edge then in this matchup? I mean, looking at the Syndra and the Rise, these are two of the most powerful mid laners. The rest of the powerful mid laners, of course, banned out the LeBlanc and the Cassio. Is it right for Immortals to first pick the Syndra here? Would the Rise have been a better choice?
I think it's a pure skill matchup, so I think you pick what you're most comfortable with, and I think by combining the Rek'Sai, Jhin, Syndra, you have three champions with a very long-range ability. I think the synergy is very good, and most teams would prefer the Syndra first pick over Rise, just because Syndra is also easy to execute in a comp. Like Rise is more the split pusher, the skirmisher. Syndra is just a very strong team fighter as well, so I think it makes a ton of sense.
Of course, interesting, the Elise and the Karma locked in. I want to take a chance, though, to talk briefly about the Jhin as Ola takes his time to hover over the bar. Now, Keyless, you talked a little bit about the range. You said Jhin positioning. Do you think that the safety from range, can Cody's son just sit back? Does he have to be in close? Is there anything he can do to not get caught out this game like he was on the Ashe in Game 1?
He's really going to have to be extremely cautious if he's going to push up and try to get off, something like that fourth crit shot onto somebody in these team fights, because they have so many ways right now, Kongdoo Monster, to get into the back line. They have a massive speed up from the Karma to shield everybody. You have the repel from the Elise, so she can, try to jump right on top of the Jhin, hit him with that cocoon, get the big shield, or rather just lock him down so that the rest of the team can collapse on top of him, as well as that Rise portal. You can just warp into the back line with a couple people and then just try to jump right on him as soon as that curtain call comes up. So I think you have to be a little bit worried if you're Immortals, but Cody was playing very, very well in the second game, so might have gotten his confidence, shaking off those stage jitters, and might be ready to dive in on a champion like this. But Ole actually going to be going back to the Bard, so that's going to be a little bit interesting, because we have to see if he's going to have a better performance than Game 1 on that champion.
Much like in the last game, the bot lane from Immortals, like how well they can actually execute their combo is going to be so important for how this early game is going to go, because Bard, Jhin as well, if you are like a fantastic 2v2 lane, it's a super strong comp that can, especially at level 6, create so many opportunities. But before that, like Karma, Ezreal, especially the first 3 levels will just be much stronger. And if you see misplays down bottom lane from Immortals, they can fall really far behind. And again, it's back to the Ezreal like in the first game from Kongdoo Monster, where it was very effective. So it's kind of the same deal as like the last game, where if Immortals are able to execute like individually, I think that composition can be very strong. But I can see it in the early game falter, just because some of the picks from Kongdoo can be safer and easier to execute. Like playing Karma support is one of the easiest things in the world. Playing Bard against things like Karma can be very difficult.
And the bot lane, I mean, it's going to be a huge break point. The last game we saw Pillbuster step up and be a massive carry for the team. So one of the big weaknesses frequently brought up when we see Syndra in the game is that she is, in theory, very vulnerable to the ganks. Kongdoo have picked up Elise, notably a very strong early ganker. Do we expect all of that pressure to just go in the mid lane, or do you think it still makes the most sense for Kongdoo Monster to pay their attention to the bottom side?
I know. I think there would be a lot of sense in seeing mid lane ganks. You have room pressing like point and click CC from Rise. Of course, Elise will also focus on bottom side later, because again, you want to play around that first bot lane tower. I like Kongdoo's adaptation and getting Elise, like getting a little bit more early game presence in here. Rise is also going to do fine in the mid lane.
Well, this is it, ladies and gentlemen. The final game. Will Immortals move on to the finals to face Samsung, or will it be Korea versus Korea? As Kongdoo Monster look to take the win. We'll find out. We're going to send it over to Papa Smithy and Freak to take us away in Game 3.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Summoner's Rift. We are here for the third and final game of our second semifinal. North America's Immortals taking on South Korea's Kongdoo Monster. Game 1 was a Kongdoo Monster comeback victory. A very good one at that. Soul hard carried on the Ezreal that he's got again here in this game. Immortals won Game 2 by winning the early game via Dardoch's early ganks and never letting up from there. We'll see what can happen now in Game 3 as I'm joined by Papa Smithy.
Yeah, the picks and bans here was super interesting, Freak. It felt like a Kongdoo Monster, they kind of took the gamble last game. Like, we've been banning this Thresh during every game. Whatever, let's leave it up. And they were punished. LA made some really good plays. It facilitated Dardoch from also being creative with his pathing and getting some good ganks off on Hecarim. And Kongdoo's early game, as Deficio was mentioning, has kind of been their big issue. They've kind of given away something every game that's really allowed Immortals to get rolling.
Yeah.
Very much easier to play from ahead than it is to play from behind. So they now have taken a different gamble. They've left open Syndra, but Belter is a strong Syndra player. There was no hesitation in grabbing it as the first pick. So now the question is, can Punch, playing the first Elise game we've seen of anyone this tournament, punish the mid lane? Sure, it is punishable. It is the Rune Prison, an instant cast CC, and also the Elise. There is deletion potential, but this matchup can also go completely the opposite direction.
Definitely can. It's Snowball. You've got a lot of point-and-click abilities in a sense. You can almost never miss some of Syndra's stuff. It's going to be very hard for Edge to deal with it. So if one gets ahead of the early ganks coming through, we know Rek'Sai and Elise both can be amazing in the early game. Crucially, actually, Immortals dodge Guger's first mantra-empowered ability, so that'll be down for a little while, but a nice Mystic shot from Soul, tag Zole. Roach, third game in a row, actually going Grasp of the Undying in the lane matchup. And it hasn't really given him huge rewards over Flame yet, but does give him some level of pressure.
Yeah, it needs to translate into something though, Freak. If you're going to go for a laning spell, whether it's the Ignite in lane in the bot lane or not going for the Courage, which you could argue with its current balance level on 623 is kind of a laning choice anyway.
Sure.
624, 625, when the cooldown goes up to 45 seconds, very much less of a laning choice, more about windows of power, but right on this patch at 30 seconds flat, it is very, very strong. Are you seeing a navigation here from Elise to come into the jungle? It's in the mid lane.
Ooh, big stun from Pobelter. We're seeing +3 minions, though there are some stills for the kills. Punch now going to look for Dardoch. Dardoch running away pretty quickly. Smite up for both these junglers, and oh! Early smite from Dardoch lets Punch take it away. Nicely played there. Pobelter again to the trade with Edge. Edge looking very good, does not land the stun. Elise wants in. Flash Q could almost kill. That was nearly in range.
It wasn't trusting that it wouldn't be a counter flash, so doesn't go for the flash, means that now return back to the mid lane. Might see some purchase, but Pobelter using those summoners is happy land for him.
And now here comes the attempt from Dardoch into the mid lane. Of course, again, Pobelter so injured, doesn't really want to stay in there. Watch the bot lane. It's technically +9, although if they get this entire wave, it's only +3. Either way, though, still a lead for Kongdoo Monster in the bottom lane. We are really not surprised to see that in any way. They've continued to do extremely well in this bottom lane. +4 ends up being the mark. Immortals missed one under turret, but only one, which is pretty impressive as Bard and Jhin, not the best bot lane turret farm getters. So,
Yes, the bot lane turret farm getters.
you know what I meant. They're not good at last hitting on a turret. Cody's going to have to reload, and Bard occasionally messes things up with his passive. Either way, well played. Of course, still, again, Soul with the advantage, and actually nicely played with the lane lead, able to recall before the cannon minion, so that Cody's son can't push easily, and buys a tier really cleanly. So, very good lane manipulation. Honestly, for all you guys out there playing bot lane, playing Ezreal, look for that 4-minute, 15-second recall. Get the 700 gold, recall at 4:15. That's honestly one of the best timings you could possibly get. I urge you to try to make that happen.
I love the teaching points, Freak.
Thank you.
And the one thing I want to kind of impart, while again the game is a bit slower, is why Kongdoo Monster took this approach. Because to me, the big thing for them was they wanted to take Ezreal away from Immortals. They left up the Syndra, was going to be snapped up, and by banning Ashe last, they knew that the Syndra would be taken, and that they would be taking Ezreal on the red side in the first rotation. So to me, this is to get, once again, scrimp on Cody's son, put him on a no-escape carry.
Oh my gosh, Dardoch, again with an early smite for no reason. Just gives away another jungle camp to Punch. Of course, great by him to steal away. Dardoch knew he was there. They actually pinged because they saw the plant was killed. And then Dardoch just missing his smite for no reason. That's 2 in a row now.
I mean, the alpha moves have all been made by Dardoch so far this series, you'd have to say, given all his successful ganks, that it's important for the mind games that Punch has been able to get in there and punish him. And again, now we have the Ezreal. The mobile carry so far has defined this series both in the hands of Soul and Cody Sun. Go over to Soul, and it's Cody Sun on another positioning AD carry. Now, you could say that to put out damage in a fight, Cody Sun doesn't have to get as close range as Ashe. The engage is about the same, Ashe arrow being global, and the long range from Jhin. But Jhin can ult and often have a very big impact in fights. And if they can abuse some of the missed positions we've seen from Cody Sun this tournament, it seems like a really heavy cost to give over the Syndra. But to me, because it was Ashe as the final ban, which seemed like a non sequitur at first, it is specifically the scrim on Cody Sun.
Well, he's going to have the fight in the mid lane. Pobelter not level 6. Looks for the CC. Not going to go for Edge right here. They wouldn't have had the damage. Now, only now does Unleashed Power come in. But you're seeing Pobelter, though he has a small farm lead, getting pushed around a fair bit by Edge on Rise. Nicely played by the Kongdoo monster mid laner. We know Syndra, a universally believed, incredibly powerful mid laner, so scary to deal with, an Edge willing to play into the matchup, and we will see, as you had mentioned earlier, if that gambit pays off.
I mean, it's games like this where you have to start to wonder about laning phases against Syndra in particular, as Soul predictably goes the aggressive route when it comes to trading. When we often see these Rise, getting him low again.
Plenty of damage. Edge doing really beautifully there.
Now, if Rise sits back, tries to see us like, okay, this is tricky, it's Syndra, I know our reputation. You get poked, you die. We know about the burst patterns from Syndra, but I think it's the aggression that Edge has shown, specifically because Punch has been the battle ward. He's being the battle ward again by going into the enemy jungle. Because the enemy jungle has been predictable, Punch has allowed Edge to just look at the 1v1 and look for aggressive trades that in any other game would just be overextended.
Yep. Very smart choice, actually, I think, by Kongdoo Monster. Letting Punch secure the blue himself. Doesn't want to give Dardoch the chance to smite it away. They didn't have wards to see him coming in. They knew he had ulted and said, you know what, let's put a safe bet. Let's pull it as far away as we can. Smite it at 400 HP. No chance to steal with a Q. And here's the play for Roach in the top lane. The W does not stop the jump over. And beautifully done by Flame, dodging out away from it all. But the flash, is he going to follow? No, he's just going to let him burn the summoner spell. But Roach doesn't have TP. So Flame could deny a full wave by doing this.
The Flame didn't, of course, have flash to follow over just early in the interaction. So specifically, couldn't get the kill that had been cemented game 1 and game 2. We've seen multiple games where teams have had advantages in the early game against Green. I was going to say North American teams, but obviously Vegas Squadron did against Samsung in our first game of the tournament completely. And then there's turnarounds. We've also seen games where Korean teams have run over their opponents. We don't know yet which camp this is in, but important that, once again, the confidence-boosting first blood did not go over to Immortals, at least in the first 8 minutes.
Oh yeah, this is the best early game Kongdoo Monster has had in this series by a long shot. They're actually up in gold right now, 200. Still +9 in this bot lane. Pretty reasonable for Soul and Googer down here. And again, we've seen several clips now of Edge playing pretty beautifully against Pobelter. This is about the time that Syndra should really start taking off and taking over the game. And right now, not happening.
And that's the thing, is to me, it matters until it doesn't matter. It matters until that first rotation comes through, even a Prey Seeker hits, and suddenly you have no health on Rise. And the snowball from the first kill for a Syndra, when she can go back, add an amp term, add a Fiendish Codex, something like that, is severe. So it's going well so far. We're going to see another buy.
They've got Dardoch here. Soul Arcane shifts away, dodges out from the Deadly Flourish. Cody Sun predicted a juke back. That didn't happen. Well-timed shield, but Googer blocks the shot as well. Pretty much perfect shield there. And Dardoch unable to find much to do.
Just to complete the thought on Rise buys, because you're going for specifically a stacking item like Rod of Ages, fitting in Magic Resist, unless you just have a leftover 400 gold at the current back that he went for, is really difficult to do. So, not going to fit in Magic Resist. You still are in burst range once you're at what, maybe 70% health, maybe 65 at best. So it's still not lane 1 for Edge just yet.
Not yet. There's always the chance. And heck, the farm is basically equal right here, so we'll see what else can happen on this one.
You take equal against Syndra.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is solid. Edge is playing well, and we know he's going to be an amazing team fighter on this Rise. Looking to send 2 over the
Bot
satchel
lane
plan.
party.
Dardoch about to find some friends down here and say, you know what? With Dardoch seeing us, we don't think we have the damage. We can't kill him. Let's not waste the time. Pobelter walking into his own jungle, but not picked off for doing so. Look at the damage, though. Roach being pushed around a fair bit by Flame.
Makes you wonder about taking that laning summoner.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like he's getting any purchase out of Grasp with the Undying whatsoever. Not many of these top lane tank picks are expected to straight up lose lane against Maokai.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say whether that's just
Matchup or
the match
required to not get pushed out even harder.
or to me, like the setup versus just the names or the actual individual players here. Because so
Right.
far, Flame is dominating this top lane matchup.
Yeah, he definitely is, and Roach not taking a very good recall, going to lose a lot of this wave. And also kind of worth pointing out, both these players choose to recall around the time their teleports come back up. In some ways they kind of had to, but still kind of making that a somewhat conscious choice to make sure they're full power for when the expected flank TPs come in. Get the Kenny for Bolter, lasting another turret. Equal farm on these two, but you can see the bot lane is 21 minions apart, and they are constantly putting in the pressure. Edge is pushing first. Punch is always available, and they're kind of forcing Immortals to leave this lane quite a lot.
But it's actually an extra level to that Freight because sure, the rotation is exactly as you described, but they're doing it when Kongdoo Monster are pushing up in bot and getting free turret shots.
Again.
Another big camp is stolen away. So much more crucial with the longer respawn times on camps. But they keep roaming when the lane is pushed up so they can get the first brick and actually get a significant goal in themselves as...
Belter exhausted. Drodak here in the mix, lands the knockup. Here comes Oli, does not land, a bit of a stun. Ezreal tags a couple with 3-shot barrage. And Cody-san got a face check and an edge. This is bad news right now for the Jhin. The ulti not going to come in time. First blood comes through for Googer. And now it's time for the teleports. Flame is in the mix. Let's find if they can get anything here for this one. Googer still tanking up in the front line. A nice stun comes out from Belter, but no damage to be had. Flame's going to be next up. He gets extinguished. 2-0 for Kongdoo Monster inside the Immortals jungle.
Just a better skirmishing 5v5, I guess you'd have to say, than one that Immortals could put together. Kongdoo was so smart, specifically. Edge looked like he just flashed to his doom when he flashed over to the red buff, but the support was there from Googer. Cody-san once again in 200-300 units of opposition with no frontline. Immortals changed their attention away from playing around their AD carry. Setups weren't there for Immortals. Cody-san goes down, and suddenly multiple objectives once again passed over to Kongdoo.
2 kills and a drink. Watch this fight again. Belter just ults.
It's a late exhaust, so you think, okay, things going pretty well for Immortals here, but Kongdoo, specifically Edge, flashes over. Everyone decides to fight against the Elise, and then you just turn on to Cody-san. He walks into them, as you say, it's poor awareness, has flash, but can't get over to the wall, so dies. And now they continue to pick targets that don't go down. Googer has his shield back on. They stun Edge, but they aren't able to focus fire him. There's the cavalry. Punch is still actually very healthy because they could never close onto the Elise. And that was just Kongdoo outplaying them in the skirmish.
Yep, absolutely. Cody-san, I mean, he has to know that both Ryze and Karma were there. He walked into them anyway, and that is unfortunate. That is a bad play right there. It's a misplay, and it hurts him in the end, giving away a kill he didn't have to. And maybe the fight could have looked different, but now it's a 2,500 gold lead, plus the Cloud Drake, the all-important Cloud Drake here, Kongdoo Monster. I think, hurting NA where it hurts them most. Taking away their favored neutral objective. Just kidding, no one likes it.
That's fair. I mean, to me, the MVP here, the freak of the early game, is Edge. Because Edge was given the roughest time. He was forced into the Ryze versus Syndra matchup specifically to hold down Cody-san and to get Soul the Ezreal. Not because Soul is a fantastic Ezreal, but because they're skeptical of Cody-san on the no-escape carries. That's a big gambit. We've seen so many Syndras at Worlds and post-Worlds dominate their opponents. There's been a couple of Echo counter picks, but that notwithstanding. But specifically Edge, getting the rough matchup and Punch performing on the first Elise of the tournament. That's a nice little steal from Belter. The two of those, Edge and Punch, have kind of done the heavy lifting to stop it being another inevitable Immortals winning the early game and then finding themselves in the mid-game pretty even situation.
Absolutely agree. Punch had stolen so many camps away from Drodak. I think it was 3 in his face, just smiting better. And normally Drodak is very good at last-hitting objectives, so atypical for him to underperform to that degree, but it's still props to Punch for making it happen all the same. Playing again in a trade with Roach, and honestly, with a minion wave there, it's not the easiest for the Poppy. Still going to try, baits the ult out of Flame, and then says, that's cute, I'm going to clear the wave now.
But in a different game, where Syndra's actually winning the mid lane and has pressure, you don't walk up to the Gromp, or walk up to the Raptors and try to steal. So this required a two-step plan. Edge to have pressure in the mid lane as Ryze versus Syndra. Certainly not a given. In fact, we've seen it much more go the other way towards specifically the Syndra, and then Punch to be actually confident enough to make those moves, because obviously the Invader's advantage is there. You're going to be like, wait, why is the Elise in my face? You're going to make that small mistake. Suddenly a smite is going to be that much more risky, as it often is in 50-50 smite situations. two-part plan that's worked. Speaking of two-part plans.
Here we go. Ulti's going to land only for the knock-up, not the knock-back. And that's going to give plenty of time for Immortals to keep going for the damage. Roach going to land the stun, but it's Flame pulling aggro. Ole's going to make sure it all works well. Drada gets the kill. Flame walks out safely, and a pretty good dive. Finally one on the board for Immortals. But it's still at 2,000 gold deficit, looking to get something back.
Still really clean timing, though. There's nowhere actually for Kongdoo to actually make a move on the map as a counter. So as far as we can tell, it's just a free kill with no recall. Sure, they get lanes pushing in other lanes, but nothing else comes through. Nice roam from Ole, and a kill against the run of play for Immortals.
Yeah, that is nice to get something back here on the map. Some more free time in the top lane for Flame. Roach probably not allowed to burn his teleport to get back to lane, so it should be several hundred damage. But look at this Cody-san really losing a ton of HP on his mid lane outer turret. Of course, no one was there to defend him. Syndra has to be in the bot lane. We saw the trifecta in the top, and uh-oh, Pobelter in a world of hurt flashes, lands the stun, and he will be able to walk away, I do believe. But that was very, very scary. Burning Devil Summoners. Now the ulti's going to land in a punch. Do they have the damage they need? Of course, an easy repel. Drops right back down. Rope warp to find a bit more. Pobelter. Ooh, going to get some damage on punch, and Cody-san finds one. No true shot barrage going to land for much here. Another knockup is in, and Flame is part of the mix, but Dardoch running out of HP. Somebody will keep him alive a little bit longer. Roach flashing away safely, and now Flame having to flash out as well, and the kill still comes through to Edge, making that a 1-for-1. Now it's a 2-for-1. Nice pickup there by Soul, taking down Pobelter, and that is another team fight win for Kongdoo Monster.
That was with Kongdoo super out of position. Soul showed up after one was already dead, but still had the same mindset. They're looking for more. Might be too much. They want at least the turret. For now, they're zoning. And Immortals, they can't walk up.
You see that shield right there, blocking the damage that could have come out. Looks all well, and that is the turret picked up. Kongdoo Monster doing very well for themselves, holding on to this lead, 3,000 gold up, 2 turrets to 0.
And the moment they were caught in the enemy jungle, the execution there to not just lose multiple members was super difficult for Kongdoo. They juggled it the best they could. They get the extra objectives out of it. Really nice stuff from them, and Immortals so close to actually finding a path back into the game. We're going to see from the replay here, when they're caught, Ezreal doesn't have any way to get there fast, and Maokai's teleport, Flame's teleport behind everyone is beautiful. Edge gets out, they turn on to punch, he dies first, and it looks like many other teams would have backed off at this point. But Kongdoo are confident enough they can get back into the fight. They don't get the first kill, but Soul kept the heal to the last, allowed Roach to stay alive, and then he keeps going in aggressively, ends up arcane shifting over to pick up the single kill that they do. Playing on the knife's edge, we talked about the edge between brilliance and madness. It works out once more for Kongdoo.
Yes, it does. Life is good for the fans of an all-Korean final. Chances there, but there's a nice stun into Root, but just no follow-up really available. No one was in range for the damage. The shield gets Soul back to safety.
Poppy, now back to wave clear duty. Teleports down for a while in the top lane, and Ryze has pressure in bot lane. And Syndra, remember, doesn't carry many escape summons, especially now with Flash and Cleanse Down. Doesn't carry Teleport compared to Ryze, who doesn't need to, has the Realm Warp. No real answer, given that traditionally it's been the Syndra losing the trades in bot, as Immortals just want to keep punishing Roach in the top lane.
Well, they knew, and this is actually kind of a smart idea to say, hey, they're going for Drake in the bot side. They should anyway. It just respawned. They have map control. Let's go for this. But of course, Roach smart enough to get away in time. Sensed it. I think they had a ward as well, and no kill picked up, so it's just the unanswered. But let's see if they can get the kill on Googer. Should be an easy Q to land. There's actually just the stun on this one. He actually burned Flash anyway, and Cody-san still killed under his turret, and Googer refuses to go down. This was a Immortals fight, and they lose at 2-for-0. What a great turnaround by Kongdoo Monster.
A sick turnaround. We talked about the bot lane being the key members. Soul saw Cody-san open up. He was like, no, no, no. Instant killed him, basically. Had to cancel the ult after the first shot. Walked away. Essence, the E comes in from the Ezreal with the Arcane Shift, takes him out. They're going to get a turret as well. Having that ability to just play aggressively, the mindset of an aggressive Ezreal, just like we saw the aggressive Ashe play from Prey at Worlds. Really clean stuff here, and punishes Immortals who thought they had the perfect setup.
And you're seeing the difference in quality of shot calling here, really, I feel like, with Kongdoo Monster, where with their lead, they're snowballing so quickly.
I mean, they think here that Immortals are going to get a free pick on Googer and that Soul's going to run away. But Cody-san at lower than half health.
Silly play. How does he not see Soul there? That is obviously suicidal.
I mean, he sees him free. I mean, obviously he's on the same screen, but the thing that he doesn't do is put together that Soul doesn't have to run, that he does have the ability to just turn on him. Other AD carries would have just got the heck out of dodge, send 3 members and say, okay, give up the karma, I'm going to live and keep my KDA. He turned, it was smart, but in the top lane, we're fighting again.
And it's Flame running out of HP pretty rapidly. Jardak mixed in this as well, but it's a 2v3. Should be an easy pickup. Roach, actually Edge getting the last hit on that one. Roach not doing a whole lot of damage. But another one for 0. 7-2 in kills. 4,000 gold lead.
And now it starts to fall apart. Now we're seeing fights being taken that in the previous game where they were winning early game, they wouldn't take free. They don't have the wards to be able to do this. Edge face checks Dardoch.
Yeah, and takes half his HP with 3 spells. And well, Ole's going to look for a bit more. He's going to be lined up for the stun. Let's see if they can make this one happen. Waiting for the knockup, and then uh-oh. Here comes Karma with the shield. Here comes the teleport flank as well. Ole going to be easily picked up. I don't know why Immortals thought this fight was going to go well. They are outnumbered. Flame was still dead anyway. A 2-for-0 simply picked up, and it's getting catastrophically away from them.
And what we're learning this tournament is with a new roster, shot calling from ahead is pretty straightforward. Sure, you might make some missteps, but it's clear. People are confident. The plays are clear. Shot calling from behind is much harder, and now they've made multiple overextensions that are being expertly punished from Kongdoo Monster. And at 21 minutes, with a 7,000 gold lead and just the texture of the game in the past 5 minutes, it suddenly looks like a bridge too far from Immortals to get the win.
This is going to be very, very difficult to get the comeback in. Kongdoo Monster well poised right now to make this the run to the finals, to get a battle against Samsung Galaxy tomorrow for the IEM Gyeonggi Championship. This is only a best of 3. This is the final game of the series. Winner does move on to the final. Immortals either with a gigantic comeback or Kongdoo Monster sailing this one into the harbor.
Yeah, we just haven't seen those sort of comebacks in this tournament. Specifically, there was the single one by Team Liquid against Giants, where the Vayne comp took over the late game, but that would require about 15 minutes of meandering here from Kongdoo Monster. That just hasn't been their playstyle so far this tournament. They've taken the Baron. They're going to look to break the base on this Baron and break the hearts of North America. They're able to take the victory and lead us to once again an all-Korean final.
Seems like that happens pretty frequently here. I think North America could be happy to get 2 into the semis. 2 in the top 4 is not nothing to shake at, nothing to be too afraid of, but here we go, another attempt here for this one. Can they get Cougar? Plenty of damage there. There's the Deadly Flourish on top of that one. They've got plenty of auto attacks to push in, and maybe, just maybe, they finally get a kill. Dardoch with a big shield stays alive for now. Punch gonna run away, but get rooted up by Flame. At the beginning of the comeback, maybe here. Wow, the deletion. Pobelter's gone. Ole's forced to flash.
Soul's
but
free
Edge
hitting
is still very, very scary. Gonna land the skill shots. There's the 2. Returned. It's actually team fight advantage already. A 3-for-2. Soul in the mix, landing more and more of his abilities in the bot lane of Immortals, just running for dear life, and they've got nowhere to go. They're running through enemy territory, and good luck with this one. They're going to leave it up to the 2. Let Edge push the waves. Let Soul get the solo kill, and Ole should actually still is going to try to run. He does run quickly.
Still is barred, so very, very maneuverable. I'm not sure they actually
away,
need to take him down at this point. I don't think it really achieves much, as Roach probably going for a walk. He's not sure if he's going to be killing minions or this Bard, but we can tell that it won't be the Bard. You can see why they went for this. This is a desperation play. They think they have the numbers. They know that Poppy's in bot lane and has no ability to rotate, doesn't have teleport, so that's why they go for the fight. They eventually take down Gugur, but Soul this whole fight first opens up space, reassesses his options, and realizes that with Syndra dead and Syndra's ult not available, obviously, both because it was used and then she died, now you can acquire targets. Now no one can turn onto Soul. He actually, off screen here, is heralding both the AD carry and support of the enemy team to run away in a 1v2 scenario. Soul is just a monster at this point in the game. Even has a Blade of the Ruin King to throw upon the Trinity Force and Muramana Core. And yeah, nice attempt by Immortals, but predictably, the gold lead is the true impacting factor.
Absolutely, and Soul moving towards a Hexdrinker or maybe a Quicksilver Sash, just to make sure that he can't lose by randomly getting Bard stunned or something, just to really make sure. I would actually guess Hexdrinker because it's Pobelter's ultimate that he's really most afraid of here, and just making sure he doesn't get one shot by the opposing mid laner, because yes, Edge and Soul have the damage up, but a Protobelt even coming in for a punch, so 3 big damage dealers for Kongdoo Monster here actually is more threats, I think, than Immortals can deal with. Even if they one-shot any of those 3, the other 2 can pick up the rest of the slack, and it would require some significant effort for Immortals to turn it around.
I think the difference between QSS and Hexdrinker in this game is actually pretty nuanced. You know, you first think, okay, you might just get burst down by Pobelter if he hits a full rotation, or just if he attempts his spells, has the spheres on the ground and ult, still does a sheer amount of damage. But there is an argument that being able to QSS out of, say, the stun or the Maokai route or the ultimate from Ole might be also something to consider. So it's a bit of line ball as to where to choose. Obviously had some very strong words about Piglet's choice in the game against Cassiopeia.
Yeah.
This one seems really nuanced, so I'm excited to see which direction he goes in.
Might not matter anyway, but there's the knock up, actually. Doesn't get the knock back that one either. The Root's going to miss onto Roach Flames. Q pushes them out of the range of Cody's Sun. But here we go. The push is in for the tank. Can they get the damage? The big slow comes out. Looking to get both targets. There's Googer running out of HP. And Poelter burns his ulti for a support. Not sure I love it, but it is a 2 for 0 while Edge is splitting in the bottom side of the map. And Hip Turret for 2 kills, I'm going to say, is worth it for Kongdoo Monster. The question is, in a 5v3, can Immortals get anything else out of it?
Yeah, the 2 kills are nice steadier, but they're still over 10,000 gold behind. It doesn't get them pressure on the map because they just lost their inhibitor turret and bots. They had to recall. They couldn't look to punish anywhere else. Obviously, Baron not respawned yet. Kongdoo just looked to buy time. They didn't want to overextend. They didn't want Soul to give over his bounty or anything like that. They don't give away any big kills. They buy time, they get an inhibitor, and they can still, when these death timers come back, reset and look to take the next major objective on their road to the victory.
Absolutely the case. 2 minutes on Baron is the next one to come up here, and we'll see if that's actually what's required of them. Of course, with an opened inhibitor in the bot lane, it makes that next step so much easier because it doesn't require a lot to take over control of the opposing base. And likely to be something that is pressured at least a little bit by Kongdoo Monster, whether by Roach or by the other 4 on the team.
I mean, now if they can draw the teleport from Flame, they have both Ryze and the Poppy that they can park in bot lane and inevitably take this inhibitor after a war of attrition. So obviously in a very confident spot.
Absolutely. And to go back to your point, still actually did go Quicksilver Sash, so more worried about dying to being CC'd than dying to being one-shot by the Syndra.
And there's just so many different types of CC. Like, clearly Cleanse isn't going to do anything against Dardoch, but Flame has the point and click, which always you have to respect on the Maokai. And if he gets out of the initial CC of a frontline bruiser like the Maokai, then he's got Blade the Ruin King.
Yeah, he can Ruin King tank that guy, no
we
problem.
know this guy can skirt around fights. He's been immaculate on Ezreal already in game 1, so
he's 2 levels above Flame. He will easily 1v1 him.
Exactly, and he doesn't have the Hex Trigger, so he can still be bursting a rotation, but suddenly that rotation looks like a bridge to bar. It doesn't look like a thing that can actually happen. So I really do like the QSS, even though Hex Trigger, on first thought, has a lot of merit against specifically Pobelter.
This is the case where, hey, if I don't think he can one-shot me, I just want to have the extra tool for being slippery, heal, flash, arcane shift, and even QSS if that all goes wrong, saving them all up.
I mean, what world does Ezreal find himself in range of Syndra with the game as it is? He shouldn't be walking into unwatered brushes. He has an entourage
and auto-attacks down
exactly, has an entourage of people in front of him that theoretically should be scouting.
Yep.
If the Syndra's on the map, just stay 1,000 units away from brush, and you're going to be just fine if you're Ezreal.
We're getting a locket now as well, so that extra shield, very easy to time against the Syndra ultimate. Even if you're a little bit slow, you say, oh, the first ball hit, but the next ones can be blocked out by this locket shield. So a lot of tools here looking very good for Kongdoo Monster. And we can see them looking for soon a game-winning push. They pulled Roach in from the bot lane. He was splitting, but now rejoining actually into his own lane. Looked for the mid lane flank, couldn't find it.
You can see what they're doing on the map. They're trying to get
play.
exclusive vision. Ryze play.
There's the knockup, there's the catch. They're going to find themselves the team fight, but a perfect ulti by Ole buys a bit of time. Cosmic Binding as well. Very, very beautiful right there. Punch not going to be low enough, and even Redemption to make sure it's all fine. I think a flash ult by Poelter. Actually, he flashed out in the first place, so didn't find the opening, but still, Ole saving what would have been a pretty clean team fight.
They turn around to fight. The heal is pretty consequential because Punch doesn't need to recall now, and they can keep to play the Baron Vision game that they'd prepped already. They've got basically exclusive vision. Once the scouting wards are down, specifically from the scrying orbs, Baron will become a super realistic objective, and they're already turning on it right now.
Kongdoo Monster missing their ultimates, but
Lot of
Immortals
Baron
missing several
damage.
summoners. Let's see
So
what
much
happens.
Baron damage.
It's going to be dropping quickly. Mountain Drake is helpful. Not going to land this fight in time as Dardoch, but maybe they can win the team fight. Just kidding. Dardoch's already dead. And the rest of the team didn't even bother trying to show up. They just said, you know what, Dardoch? You won't be 5 this. If you get it, good for you. Otherwise, we're going to hide in the base.
I mean, now the inhibitor's down, and Freight, there was no winning option there for Immortals. There was not much they could do, specifically because, okay, they repelled the gank that would have probably ended the game if they got multiple members on that Ryze engage with Poppy, but because at the same time previously, Kongdoo had prepped Baron Vision, they got the redemption down, they at least didn't have to recall, they could turn on to Baron. There's so much Baron damage with Ryze and Ezreal being able to put out that damage, and they still get the objective. Dardoch hopes against hope that he get the steal, doesn't, And this is what the best teams do. They prep more than one win condition. Either you get the waves in order, and then you play 3 lanes, or you set up the Baron vision, look for picks, and then can still rotate onto Baron. Only Scrying Orbs were around, probably were on cooldown at the time, and they get everything in the end.
What was really important about that with the mid lane play is the fail condition of that play didn't hurt their other win condition. If this turns around, well, we're still right in the mid lane ready to turn back to Baron. We didn't lose the wards by going for this, and that's kind of crucial as well, that plan B doesn't counteract plan A. And now Pobelter in him. Yeah, he's gone. He's in the coffin.
Indeed
He's dead. He's in blah. He's been blocked. He's been destroyed. He's been shut down. Soul 4-0-7 on the Ezreal, still having a great performance. Have to give credit to Edge as well. Again, holding up, doing well, roaming first, having lane control against the highly, highly sought-after first-pick Syndra, and makes it look easy. Makes us all wonder why Syndra is important in the first place, because Soul definitely was massive in that lane. Edge was great, in that lane. Soul, then wonderful as well, and looks difficult now as more of the base is going down. Mid lane inhibitor is open and shut.
Yeah, looking to win on this push, Freak. Still 15 seconds for Syndra.
Not quite going to stun Dardoch, but it doesn't really matter. Cougar rooted up. Does Flame want this? I guess he does. Both are alive in 7 seconds. Looking for a bit more damage. Can't find it just yet. There's the Realm Warp. Cody Sun on his own fountain. Ole can't stop it in time. Flame going to be trapped out, maybe running for dear life. Does lose the Guardian Angel. One quick turnaround is that pop on to Punch. Maybe they can get a little bit more. Oh, that's a bit aggressive. Tackles into the fountain. And actually now it's Kongdoo Monster missing several members, but the re-engage Soul flashing the stun, getting the kill, and now Dardoch and Ole, I don't think they can do it. This is going to be the next, that's going to be the game. It's going to be Kongdoo Monster into the final to face Samsung Galaxy. Beautifully played here in Game 3.
And the key takeaway from this game is that it was a team victory by Kongdoo Monster. This game actually reminded me of the final game of MSI last year because they knew Syndra would be taken, and they had many layers to their attack to stop Syndra from taking over the game, and even to stop Dardoch from having the same early game. They got priority in mid, specifically through smart counter jungling and good trades very early. They had an aggressive mindset for the Rise that often plays very passively into the Syndra, and then the building blocks turned into more and more. They took a single brick, they built it into a house, and that house has got them all the way to the grand final of IEM Gyeonggi.
It's really nice to be done. So Kongdoo Monster with the victory. Maybe not as clean as some would have expected. You saw the early game definitely had some hurdles, especially as you saw in Game 1 and Game 2. But a much better Game 3 there from Punch, living in Dardoch's jungle. Edge helping with that by having such great control over the mid lane so that Pobelter couldn't join. And those two allowed all the map control they needed to close it out.
I'm going to look at some highlights of the game. Looking to close this one out. Roach lived here. That was so massive. No flash to follow. If that guy goes well, maybe the shot calling changes for Immortals. Maybe they have the same confidence. They're like, okay, 3rd time's the charm, we got this. But they started getting chased down. They started getting desperate, and they made some misplays. There will be the focus on Cody Sun. I'm sure in post-match reviews, still made some mistakes. The Ezreal looked like comfort for him. His other 2 games on first Ashe, then Jhin, he struggled. And by the time the desperation engages, like the one we're seeing on your screen, started, you had to feel, as a North American fan, that once again it was going to be Korea versus Korea.
Absolutely, yeah. That was the likely output. There was some hope with the Immortals Game 2 win, but this Game 3 was just a lot of control the whole way through. And you saw just the class, really, for Kongdoo Monster. I thought they played this game very, very well, in control the entire time. There was 1 or 2 slip-ups, but it was only a couple of kills.
I really hope we get a replay of the Ezreal kill on Syndra right at the last. That was certainly confidence. There's a casual 1173 damage pop. Won't get that replay, sadly, but that's one to look at because that was super cool. Once again, Soul deathless on the Ezreal. They reached for the Ezreal, they gave over the Syndra. Job well done, Kongdoo Monster.
And for me as a bot lane player, Soul is one more reason to watch LCK in the next split. This guy...
You sure you needed more, Freak?
I mean, look, I already love watching the LCK, and there's some really, really great teams, but Kongdoo Monster was not coming into this a team I was very excited to see. The KT Super Team, okay, great. SKT, obviously, right? But Soul is so good. I will watch Kongdoo Monster games just for him, just to emulate what looks to be one of the very best AD carries in the world heading in 2017. I'm excited to see him match up against players like Bang and Deft.
I mean, they've got all these teams with names that are definitely going to have high expectations and have to earn it based on names on paper of previous legacies. And then we've got MVP staying with the same roster, finished 6th last year. On the way up, we've got Kongdoo Monster coming from Challenger, and suddenly now looking like a middle-of-the-range pack. You have to think that one of the 5 stacked super teams of past stars won't be as good. Just like Longzhu this year struggled so hard. And you have to think now, seeing more Kongdoo, looking at some of the pack approaching them, that maybe we'll see another big shift at the top of the table.
And sometimes you see these teams work out in the end anyway. I always think of Counterlogic Gaming as a team where there's no huge stars on that roster. Maybe Aframu is like one you can consider for that one. But via being good teammates and sticking together for a very long time, and to my knowledge, that roster staying together, Kongdoo Monster feels like that, where its players, some of them are real stars, but otherwise very good as a team together.
And again, it's worth knowing that the closest analogy would be Splice, who of course stayed together after almost getting relegated and got a lot better. This team got relegated. They went out of the limelight, stayed together, got a better jungler, upgraded, and now come back to LCK better. And that's perhaps the most heartening of those scenarios, but we're just about ready to sign off. Best of 5 between Samsung and Kongdoo. A lot of people would have predicted that before the tournament, but the road that got us there taught us a lot about some of the new hopefuls, specifically in North America for 2017.
Yeah, we got to see a lot of the players perform. We got to renew our love for Seoul here in the bottom lane. And just so you guys know, the match will be tomorrow, much later in the day than today's semifinal was. If you want to stick around, I believe it's live.intelextrememaster.com, something like that, to follow up with StarCraft 2. That is it for League of Legends today. We will see you tomorrow for the All-Korean final best of 5 between Samsung and Kongdoo Monster. We'll see you then.